Welcome, welcome, welcome back to From Middle Class to Millions. By the time you hear this, I would have already completed the webinar on Wednesday night, Money in Plain English. And I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people are enrolling in this webinar, and I'm really happy about it because what I am going to teach on Wednesday is really a skill set that most people need. It's a skill set that most people are lacking, not because they weren't paying attention in school or weren't listening to what their parents said, or for whatever reason that they haven't acquired the skill. Mainly it's because this isn't something that we talk about. People hear these words, they hear these terms, they don't understand how they apply to their real lives, and they just go on about their business trying to do the best that they can with what they have. And most people learn that, okay, you know what, get a job, earn more, and you'll be okay. And the sad reality is it's just not that simple. You need to learn a little bit more in order to make some of the right decisions that won't put you into a poor financial situation for the rest of your life. So when you hear this, if you're still interested in getting access to that webinar, please reach out to me because it's really fantastic. It's free. I'm putting the information out there for everyone because I believe we all need it. I know I would have loved to have had this information, 25 some odd years ago would have been helpful at least. But for those of you who think it's too late, it's not. It can still help you make some changes for your financial future. And you can also share this information with your loved ones, right? You can also share it with people that may be struggling. You can also share it with people who haven't begun their financial journey yet. If you have kids that are still in school, any little bit helps. Once you start to hear this language, and it just reinforces, right, what you may already know, and it introduces you to things that you don't know and you need to know. So by all means, make sure you can get access to this webinar. Reach out to me. I will definitely share it with you and share it with others. All right, let's get into this podcast episode, which I'm really excited about because I want to talk about what money is versus what it isn't. And I know that when we think about money, we have these images that are not only in our brains, but that we see every day, right? We see celebrities, we see the rich and famous, we see the Birkin bags, we see business class seats or private jets or champagne. We see Instagram moments where people are at resorts and living their best lives, right? And it's a feeling that these folks have finally made it. And that's what wealth seems like. That's what having money seems like, right? And we all imagine that, okay, if we hit a certain number, then you're going to have that feeling. And that's what money is. It's actually that feeling of having all of those material things. And that's what's put in front of us all the time. But what if money is none of that, actually? What if money looks completely different? It's not the visible, it's not the shiny, it's not the stuff that you can post. What if it's something a lot quieter, a lot simpler, that doesn't show up at all in the visual realm? So, okay, let's think about this for a second. And I know this seems a little confusing to some people and maybe counterculture, but I want to read something to you because I want you to hear the difference. Now, I know many of you, I don't know if you've read his book, Morgan Housel, The Psychology of Money. Some people find this book to be amazing and really changes the way that they think about money and thinking about how to use money. But I want you to hear this quote from Morgan Housel's book. He says, "Wealth is what you don't see. Wealth is the nice cars not purchased, the diamonds not bought. Wealth is financial assets that haven't yet been converted into the stuff you see." And I think that's so poignant because it's really difficult to communicate to people the stuff that you don't see, right? It's something that I struggle with all the time. But when my clients are in that situation, when they've done the work, when they've set themselves up in such a way that when certain circumstances arise, they say, this is what money is. They never say it's all the stuff that they bought on their credit cards. They never say it's the lake house. They never say it's the luxury vehicle. But when something pops up in their lives that really makes a difference, that's unexpected, that can be resolved with money, that's when they say, yes, this is what money is. And I want to give you some examples because I know it seems a little intangible to talk about these things, but not have an example of what these things are and how it actually feels. And I want you to actually imagine yourself in some of these scenarios. And quite honestly, some of you have been in these situations before. So it's not going to take a lot for you to imagine. But what I want you to do is imagine what it would feel like if your money was set up in such a way that the same situations could occur, but you could react to them very differently. So the first example I want to give you is actually a friend of mine. She's a business colleague, but she's also become, a friend. She is actually fired, okay? Financially independent, retired early. This woman, I came to learn, who is running her own business now, but before worked in corporate, and she's just financially independent. She's a multimillionaire. She is set up quite nicely. And, we were just having a casual conversation. We were going to have a meeting. And she said, I took my car in and the AC went out. And she was like, this is annoying. And so the mechanic came out to her. At that point, she knew that the AC had gone out, and she was like, "Okay, so what's the problem? What's broken? What needs to be fixed?" And the mechanic came back with a number, and he's like, "Look, these are all the issues. It's $1,200, and this is why." And blah blah. And she cut him off, and she's like, "That's okay. Just fix it. Just fix it." And it's not because $1,200 is nothing. You don't get to be a multimillionaire and not have respect for money and understand the value of a dollar. So it's not that. But it's because $1,200 in the grand scheme of things, because of the work that she has done, allowed her to remove herself from panic. It allowed her to not spiral out. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever been in this situation where $1,200 could send you into a complete tizzy. It would make you think about, okay, which card can I use? Which card has the space? Which bill do I move around? What can I postpone? I mean, that goes through the minds of many people who don't have their financial houses in order. Okay? I can say this because not only do I work with people who are trying to get to the point where their financial houses are in order, but also I've been in that situation where $1,200 could send me on a wild goose chase in terms of figuring out what do I have to do to make this happen. But instead, for my friend, her first thought wasn't, oh my gosh, all of those things, all of that panic. It was, that's what I have the money for. So fix it and let's move on. This situation is not an experience of luxury. Okay, nobody's happy about throwing $1,200 into this car. What it was actually the absence of a spiral. It was the absence of the math in her head. It was the absence of the stress and holding your breath and trying to figure out how you're going to pay. That's what money is. That's the goal. Not the champagne and the luxury and all of that. It's the quiet moment to say, this is an inconvenience, but I got it. And I know for many of us, you've had a car issue. So this isn't so difficult for people to envision. And you will have another car episode. We all know that. It's not a matter of if, it's when. And what I want to impart upon you is how you can change your response to the car episode. Because yeah, who cares? Who wants to throw money at a car? But you can, and then you can move on. It doesn't cause you to spiral out. The second example that I have of what money is, it's about a vet bill. And this woman that I know, her cat had been sick for weeks. Now, I don't know, for those of you who have pets and you have your furry friends and they're a part of your family. And when they get sick, you got to figure out, okay, what's going on? You want answers. You want solutions. You want their health to be restored, right? So after weeks of her having this situation with her cat, the vet bills were adding up. I mean, week after week. And they rapidly approached $20,000. Now, this woman had an emergency fund, okay? Not $20,000 for vet bills necessarily, but she had an emergency fund. She was doing the work. She did the things she was supposed to do. She'd been saving. She'd been tackling her debt. She'd been thinking about, okay, how much can I start putting towards my investments? How can I increase that even while I'm paying down debt? Even when I'm building a foundation. But, $20,000 is $20,000. Let's not lie. When she started draining her account, she started to get a little anxious. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that I ask people. What would she have done if she didn't have that emergency fund? I know what she would have done. She would have done what a lot of people, myself included back in the day, would have done if I didn't have the cushion. I would have grabbed my credit card. And so would she. And that $20,000 would have been $20,000 plus 24, 29, 32% interest. So all of the money that she was directing towards paying down debt, the money that she was directing towards savings, the money that she was directing towards investments, towards building her future, suddenly that would have gone towards this additional amount of debt. And what would have happened? She would have been paying that off for months, if not years, which in turn would have impacted how much she could continue to save and, of course, how much she could continue to invest. One emergency, one surprise bill, and the ripple effect would have touched everything that she had been building, everything, and would have taken it down quite rapidly. This is why I say these terms matter. These words matter. Having financial fluency matters because I want you to see the connections between the emergency fund, having liquid assets, what your debt to income ratio is, what credit utilization is. All of these things factor in and then, of course, will impact your future savings, will impact your future investments. These things don't live in isolation. They're all connected. They protect each other. Financial fluency isn't theoretical. It's quite literally the difference between one hard, stressful week, inconvenience, being annoyed that you're paying so much, but you love your furry friend, and 2 years of serious setback. And when we continue to do this over and over and over again for years, if not decades, you can see why people feel so frustrated that they don't get money. They don't understand how they keep making more money and yet still they're not getting ahead. It's because of this interplay. These words, these terms make such a difference. When not only you just hear them and they bounce off your ears and you keep going about your business, but when they penetrate and they permeate and you can see the correlation between each and every one of these terms and your financial freedom. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And what saved this woman with this $20,000 exorbitant vet bill was having the financial fluency and the strategy. That's what saved her. That's what made the difference. And I think all of us can relate. $20,000. Where am I going to get that from? If you have it, it's a very different response than if you don't. Nobody necessarily wants to spend it, but you know what the difference is if it's sitting there waiting for that type of emergency because you've set yourself up with a strong financial foundation versus if you didn't. You know the difference. Okay, the third example I want to give you is a client of mine. And what I love about this example is because I think a lot of women will be able to relate to this, okay? My client was very clear. She said, look, I was going through perimenopause. I was feeling off. I was feeling tired. I wasn't feeling like myself. I didn't know what the heck was going on. And I needed a solution because it was completely miserable. So she said, I found a doctor who does one of these full hormonal panels that, the real deal, not just your standard blood test, but the complete hormonal panels that will tell you exactly what's going on. So you'll know exactly what's happening. And she was like, okay, finally, like she felt so good that, okay, she's going to get some answers. But then she found out that her insurance company wouldn't cover it. What did she do? Well, she did it. She didn't flinch. She didn't panic. She didn't freak out. Now, bear in mind, these things aren't cheap, okay? But she didn't second guess because you know what? She wanted to get the answers. She wanted to get the solution. So she paid for it. And she scheduled the appointment. And she's like, yeah, I know it's going to cost a lot out of pocket, but I need this. I need to take care of myself. I need to take care of my health and my well-being. And she said to me, that's what the money is for, right? And I said, yeah, that's exactly what it's for. It's not just the things we see, the bags, the vehicles, the champagne. No. The money is for when you need to take care of your health. When you do it and you don't have to make these calculations in your head first. When you need to take care of something that really matters to you. Especially when it comes to your body and your energy and your quality of life. You don't wait until it fits into the budget. You don't have to. Your health and your dignity and the solutions and answers to the questions of how you can feel better, yeah, that's exactly what the money is for. I want you to know that all of these three stories have something in common, okay? First of all, none of them include anything luxurious. There are no luxury purchases. None of them were like, oh, I made it. And none of them felt like, particularly thrilled with what they were doing. But what they all have in common is they all had a problem. A problem showed up. It got handled. And they moved on with their lives. That's what I want you to understand the money is for. That is what building this wealth is for. It's the ability to move through your life without holding your breath, without having to figure out how to, beg from Peter to pay Paul every time something unexpected happens. I don't want that for you. I don't want you to feel like every emergency is a catastrophe. I don't want every catastrophe to set you back for years. I want you to realize that some of these things suck, yes, but they're inconveniences and you can handle them and then you can forget about them within a few days. That's what the money's for. So I know a lot of the folks that listen to my podcast are pretty good earners. Some of you are really great earners, right? And you're listening and you're nodding your head and you're like, yeah, that's the feeling that I want. So why is it that I don't have that when these emergencies or episodes arise? And it's because it's clear, like it's not something that you guys have done, but what I see is when these women come to me and they want to work with me, that yeah, you're making really good money, great money, and you have great careers. But there's so much anxiety that's lingering because you're worried about, okay, are you doing the right things? And my accounts don't really reflect all the money that I've been making. Yeah, I've been making more money over the years. Yeah, I've been getting the raises. Yeah, I've been getting the promotions. Yeah, I've been moving up the ladder, but my money isn't moving as rapidly as I would think it would, considering the amount of time that I've put in, considering what I've been doing. And not only is it not moving as rapidly, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. I don't know what enough is. And I don't know, even if I get to enough, is it going to last? I know that you've put in the work. I know that you've built careers that you felt good about. And I know that you followed the rules, because the rules were to, get your education or get a good job, work hard, make more money, and it will all work out. But somehow you don't feel financially confident, even though you've done all of the things. And that's because just increasing your income doesn't solve the problem. You know this. Your income has been increasing. And yet still, why don't you feel like you're closing the wealth gap? It's because the hustling, the increased working, the promotions, the raises, the income is not the problem. It's the understanding. It's the language of money that you don't understand. That's the problem. See, nobody's going to teach you how money works. You've got to find that out. You've got to figure out how it works, like minus all the jargon and the definitions. And you've got to be able to connect the dots. And how do you do that? Because if you can't figure out how to connect those dots, that anxiety is going to just keep rising as your income rises, but you're still not going to be at peace. That's why so many of you can earn your way to a higher salary and still feel lost. You're really smart, you're really well accomplished, but you can't figure this out. And that's because earning more and understanding more are two completely different things. And you've only focused on one side. No fault of your own, but that's the reality. And quite honestly, if earning more was going to solve the problem, you would have solved it by now. That's the most confusing part. Because what you were told to do is supposed to solve the problem, and it hasn't solved the problem. And here you've been showing up for years, working hard, and there's still this gap. So you've got to close that gap. And how do you do that? You want to get to my client stage, the one who could pay for the hormonal panel without blinking an eye and not have it impact anything to do with her wealth building in her future. You want to be the cat lady, right, who paid for that $20,000 vet bill and it didn't devastate her and decimate her whole financial plan. You want to be my business colleague who very simply said, no AC is a huge inconvenience, particularly in June. I don't want to hear about it. Take care of it and let's move on. That's what financial fluency looks like in real life. That's when you have a strategy. That's how that shows up in real life. It's not a number in your account. It's not. It's a feeling. It's a feeling. And it's the feeling of being in control of what happens next. Yeah, we look at your numbers. Of course we do. But your numbers are personal. So your number, the cat lady's number, the AC lady's number, the perimenopausal woman's number, my number, they're all going to be different. But what's going to be common for all of us is that we are going to feel that peace. We are going to spend money on the things we value. We're going to take care of ourselves and our loved ones. We are not going to stress out when these unexpected expenses arrive. No. We're going to take care of ourselves. That's the true meaning of wealth. So it's not what you see. It's not. It's the things that we just talk about quietly, maybe with our loved ones, but it's not splashed all over social media. The goal is never the bag, okay? Yes, the goal is never the first class seat. Yes, those things are wonderful. They're great. They're actually spectacular. Ask me how I know. But honestly, the true goal is the peace of mind when you don't have to spiral over the car repair, when the vet bill doesn't take your whole financial future down, and that the doctor's appointment that needs to be paid for out of pocket is scheduled immediately and you don't think twice about it. That's what I want you to think about. That's what we're building towards. I want you to know that if any of this resonates with you, if you're someone who, earns well, has been earning well for a while, or just began to earn well, and you still don't feel financially clear, you still don't feel like you're where you should be by now, this is exactly the work I do with my clients one-on-one. This is exactly it. We create a strategy, we create a plan, we work together. You learn this skill that, quite frankly, in this economy, you need. You take care of your debt, you take care of your emergency funds, you take care of your investments, you start investing if you're not already, you understand how the market works, you become completely financially literate and fluent. And you will be forever. And once you're able to do that, you can take care of yourself for the rest of your life. This is for the woman who's ready, not almost ready, not been putting it off for a year or 2 or 3. And by the way, for those of you who are putting this off and the market is skyrocketing right now, again, you're losing out. I don't want that for you. So no more someday and, okay, I'll do it after this and when this. No, you have to be ready right now. You have to be ready right now to close the gap between what you earn and what you understand. The time is now, honestly. It truly, truly is. In this economy, you can't afford to fool around. All right. Until next time, I want you to keep building, not just your income, but the foundation underneath it. All right. Take care, and I'll talk to you next Thursday. Bye.